great to see you. My name is Mia Kim from Jeonju University. I'm very honored to have an opportunity to make a presentation about what I've researched today. The title of my research I want to make a presentation today is an examination of jazz poem embracing African American nations' delayed dream through the analysis of the poet Langston Hughes. Okay, let me tell you the content first. This is the content of my research, my presentation today. First, I'm going to introduce about the whole background of my research. Second, I want to mention about Langston Hughes' bi-bop poem, which has the tendency of embracing social theme. Third, I want to tell you about Langston Hughes' boogie-woogie poetry, embracing Black nations' ethnic sentiment, and then I want to tell you about the conclusion of my research. Okay, then let me start explaining about the introduction of my research. What sets Langston Hughes' musical poetry apart from those of others is that his poems faithfully embody the forms and themes of the music he pursues and its evolution process without partially borrowing or embodying musical elements superficially. The remarkable point of Langston Hughes' poems based on blues and jazz is not only can people feel periodical emotion from the latest songs since slavery to spiritual songs, blues, jazz, and even rap, but also it embraces the unique spirit and experience of the society and culture they belonged to. Langston Hughes' jazz poems made an important contribution to the building of African American aesthetics through the art form of Black people. Hughes, who enjoyed meeting Black people in person through music plays and poetry recitals, tried to reflect Black people's dialect, their real language, to his poems, thereby helping Black people overcome psychological colonialism. Throughout his whole life, Langston Hughes always tried hard to reflect social theme to his poems, and he eventually suggests Black's own aesthetic identity. This research aims to analyze Langston Hughes' jazz poems, who experimented diverse forms of literary skills to pursue Black people's free and positive soul from all the yoke of chaotic American history. So this research will be an opportunity to reinterpret the lives of Black people who faces another crisis in American society and the direction the society should take. Okay, let me move on. Okay, in this chapter, I want to tell you about the Langston Hughes bi-bop poem, which has the tendency of reflecting and embracing social theme. The two genres of music, blues and jazz, basically share Black spirit. However, while blues truly captures the emotions of Black people, jazz contains more colorful and exotic emotions, including white's emotion, by accepting various musical elements from different regions. In other words, jazz is a more open form of music to various people and culture than blues. So it was the reason Langston Hughes chose jazz as his literary companion to pursue Black identity and Black aesthetics through it. Its openness and freedom was the perfect technique which can complete Hughes' goal as a Black poet. In the collections of his poems, Delayed Montage, Hughes tried to secure both individuality and homogeneity by combining each and every piece of the hopelessly delayed dream of the Black people. This collection of poems consists of 6 sections with different subtopics, but as a whole, it has continuity in form or theme as in one long poem. In order to maintain this continuity, Hughes organizes the day-long event with a stream of consciousness, starting with Good Morning Daddy in his first poem, Dream Boogie, and ending with the last poem, Island. First of all, Langston Hughes pursues the unity of the whole poems by setting music as a motif in its structure. As a result, his poems include various poetic speakers with a lively and serious yet comical consciousness. Langston Hughes recognized the need for a new style of expression to reflect social aspects and radicalism that American society has, and the alternative he chose was bebop from jazz. Langston Hughes tries to explain all the new musical elements he chose in relation to the characteristics of bebop. All his bebop poems have continuity like a link. The titles of these poems are organized with the method of jam session in bebop music. Jam session is a way of exchanging impromptu performances with several performers, and individual improvisations are performed within the promised theme. Each improvisation creates a new musical theme. Bebop's jam session, which seeks to release the rhythm temporarily through improvisation, is the musical version of montage technique. Likewise, Hughes emphasizes Black people's unrestrained right through the free form of jazz poetry that pursues the liberation of rhythm and rhyme. Next, let me tell you about Langston Hughes' boogie-woogie poetry embracing Black nation's ethnic sentiment. As Langston Hughes mentions in the preface of the collection of poems, Montage, boogie-woogie poems are arranged at appropriate intervals throughout the collection to support the subject. These poems are as detailed as bebop techniques. In the perspective of music history, boogie-woogie has a high degree of perfection of blues by performing a junction between blues and jazz, but also has more vitality by using instrumental music. It plays a significant role in the birth of bebop. Hughes, these 6 boogie-woogie poems are the ones containing the development of process of bebop and embodying the form of bebop into poems. The biggest musical feature of boogie-woogie is that it uses ragtime and walking bass accompaniment to continue to play the variation of blues. It shows blues variations with its left hand, and it shows melody with improvisation and syncopation with its right hand based on boogie-woogie. Frustration, misery, and hope of the delayed dream dominating the consciousness of Black people are expressed in the poem Dream Boogie. As the low rumbling sound of the walking bass, which is played by boogie-woogie's left-hand accompaniment. The continuous ringing of this sound is the theme music and background music that dominates the whole poems. As we can see, this poem explicitly conveys the message of Langston Hughes in terms of Black people's mournings and devastation about their constantly deferred and delayed dream of equality as a human being and also economic and political stability in American society. Let me read the poem. Good morning, Daddy. Ain't you heard the boogie-woogie rumble of a dream deferred? Listen closely. You'll hear their feet beating out and beating out. You think it's a happy beat? Listen to it closely. Ain't you heard something underneath, like a what did I say? But when we analyze this poem from a musical standpoint, it can be said that it corresponds to an irregular rhythm of boogie-woogie after blues format. These parts in musical form will be played by sudden, repetitive sentence, decorative phrase, break, etc. It should be played on its right hand if it is played on piano. The poetic effect that Hughes seeks to achieve through this combination of successive questions and intermittent rhythms is to remind them of the seriousness of delayed dreams of Black people and the social and structural contradictions. Langston Hughes expresses a complex and confused state of mind disguised as happiness by making an anomalous exception in the poem, which originally had the form of 3 paragraphs, 12 lines, and 12 phrases. The poem, which presents the original form of the other 5 poems, not just here, but by adding more experimental elements, heralds the arrival of bi-bop poetry. As the preface mentions, an ending with an unexpected difference in meaning and a sharp and rude exclamation marks the end of the poem. Let me tell you another example of Langston Hughes' boogie-woogie poem. Sure, I'm happy. Take it away. Hey pop, re-bop, mop, yay. Okay, in this poem, the ending line expresses the speaker's intention to overcome the original misfortune of dream, frustration, and depression. By satirically showing, I'm okay, I'm happy, so take it away. Hip hop, re-bop, mop, following each rhyme is a kind of Black dialect that contains various elements of musical expression. While the dialect that often appears in blues, such as daddy, papa, pop, or mama, contains a lot of vulgar meaning. Hughes continues to use these dialects in his poems, showing his seriousness toward African Americans' oral tradition. The use of such dialects also strengthens the homogeneity of Black people, allowing them to convey Hughes' own sincerity more effectively. Hughes uses the title Daddy, Papa, Pop to suggest the speaker of the poem is a woman, and he clearly suggested the delayed dream is a common theme of not only men, but also all Black people, including women. Okay, now let me tell you the conclusion of my research already. Okay, Langston Hughes' jazz poetry made an important contribution to the building of African American aesthetics through the art form of Black people. Hughes, who enjoyed meeting Black people in person through music plays and poetry recitals, tried to express the true language and the true dialect of Black people in his poems, thereby helping Black people overcome psychological handicap and colonialism. Through the complicating and long experimental journey, he could establish his own aesthetic identity as a Black poet. The greatest pain of an endless delayed dream is that it cannot be predicted how long it will last. Over the course of a day or two, Black people's hearts have dried up, hardened, and eventually festered. It is hard for Black people to keep their anger unexploded in a reality where they do not always know if the dream will come true or not. Langston Hughes reflected Black people's dual anxiety like this and their social psychology to his poems with musical factors of improvisation, diversity, and freedom of jazz. Even today, the issue of Black people's right to live in America is a heavy topic that is still unresolved. But this study concludes